Hello and welcome to You.Gov. You.Gov is all about you and the government. What does the government do and what are your obligations as a citizen? This show seeks to inform you about government functions and responsibilities as well as your corresponding obligations as a citizen. I am Itohan Olomu-Agbodo. This year we've had some very interesting topics and we are going through them one at a time, seeing the major topics of the year. We're going to be taking a look at two very inspiring and insightful topics, political correctness and federal character, this episode on the show. We'll take a quick break, and when we return, we'll let you know more. Stay with us.
Hello everyone, my name is P. Eve. Remember how I always tell you that you decide what is trending? Well, I wasn't wrong, because now trending and forever will be trending is the Pastor Chris in every home campaign. This is so awesome. You know, that moment where we have Pastor Chris in every city, every home, every restaurant, hotels, hospitals, wherever. We're just going to be right in your face. This is amazing. Now you understand that if we can change a man in every home, we can indeed change the world. So let's get started in doing that as you join in on this campaign by always watching Pastor Chris. And after you're done watching Pastor Chris, you can also take a picture of you watching any of Pastor Chris's message, post it on social media, Kingshot, let people hear about it, tell people about it. That is where we talk about the spreading. And when you're done doing that, make sure you are a proud sponsor. Trust me, you will be glad you did. Like I always tell you, you decide what is trending. But guys, right now I have to leave because I have me some Pastor Chris to watch. Bye guys.
This week on EduBox, we take a look at federal character and political correctness. The federal character principle, which has been enshrined in Nigeria's constitution since 1979, seeks to ensure that appointments to public service institutions fairly reflect the linguistic, ethnic, religious, and geographical diversity of the country. The provisions of the 1999 Constitution in sections 14 and 153 consolidated the establishment of the Federal Character Commission to enforce the federal character principle. Political correctness means using words or behavior which will not offend any group of people. Most people think it is important for everyone to be treated equally, fairly, and with dignity.
Well, if you're just joining us, this is You.Gov with me, Itohan Olomu-Agbodo. And as I said earlier, we've been talking about some interesting political terms, political concepts this year. And we're taking a look at some of them by way of recap. And the first topic is federal character. Federal character, it's a principle enshrined in the Constitution of Nigeria. Indeed, it has been in the Constitution since 1979, yes. And that principle is to ensure that there's equity in distribution of appointments in the public service so that every ethnic group will be captured under such appointments. We had Barrister TAKON who explained the concept of federal character better for us. Let's take a listen.
Federal character is a principle enshrined in our Constitution that is intended to ensure that policies of government, the trust of government policies, especially as regarding the public service and, of course, distribution of infrastructure and other amenities are done in such a manner as to reflect the linguistic, ethnic, religious, and geographical diversity of our country. That's basic, so that everybody, every tribe and clime would have a sense of belonging and responsibility to the nation. That's basically what federal character is about.
Okay, that was your own perception, your own definition of federal character. So to the Nigerian on the streets, to the Nigerian students, what is federal character?
Very well. Talking as a teacher,
yes.
Federal character would mean that the principle of federal character means that government should conduct its affairs in such a manner as to ensure that the policies of government, as they affect every Nigerian, should be such that no Nigerian, either because of what religion he belongs, either because of his sex, ethnic extraction, as in whether you're Yoruba, Igbo, Boki, Hausa, or Ibibio, that you are not left out. The policy of government will be such as would affect and consider, take into consideration every Nigerian as to where he lives, his location, his religion, his language, his culture, so that nobody is left out and made to feel like he doesn't belong to this nation or is being treated as a second-class citizen or somebody who is borrowing, rights in his own country. That's basically what federal character is.
Okay, now we know you made reference of the Constitution. So in our Nigerian Constitution, where can we find reference to federal character, and does it really apply to all the states of the Federation?
Yes, that should be basically we call it by what we say fundamental objectives of state principle. That's what it's called. That's where it's embodied in the Constitution. The sad thing is that we say at law that that provision is not such that you can. Okay, let me put it right, to talk always like a teacher, as it were. You cannot take the government to court for failing to implement that constitutional provision. That's a sad thing. It is enshrined in that part of the Constitution saying that Section 14, that you would have to, government is obliged, government should ensure that, as I've said before, the policies of government are such as would instill that sense of belonging and responsibility in every Nigerian. But I wish that they had gone further, to say that government could be held accountable. That would have gone a much longer further to ensure that, these things are not taken lightly by those in authority, those in leadership at any time, not minding what party is in government, because as it were, it will be the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And I'd like to really want to add up to that to say that I've always we talk about the American dream, and in our side of the world, it's very saddening that we have failed projects, elephant projects, where PDP that has just left government, most of its policies are abandoned by the APC because they do not want the credit, as it were, in their mentality to go to PDP to say PDP started this thing, so it is not yours. Now, if the fundamental objectives of state principles were actionable, were such that they were justiciable, you could go to court to enforce them, then we could hold those in government accountable for failing to do these things. We would judge every regime or government not on account of the name of the party, but on account of how well you're implementing the state principles, these objectives. How well have you done them? That is more like what you want to call the Nigerian dream. So I think it is important that we make it justiciable, so we can hold a government accountable. If you do not implement them, at the next election, you're liable to be thrown out, or even perhaps we hold it as an impeachable offense, as it were, if a government of the day, the president especially, who is the chief executive officer, fails to do these things, we could say you have failed within this time to implement these objectives, and say that, of course, since it's a breach of the constitutional provision, it's impeachable.
But TAKON, when you were talking about the application of the Constitution, the application of federal character in various states, you made mention of the Nigerian dream. So what can you say is a Nigerian dream? Do we have a Nigerian dream?
Well, that typically, as I say, should be the Nigerian dream. The fundamental objectives of state principles should be the Nigerian dream. Why do I say that? If you ever read it, you will come to terms with the fact that if we let governance along those lines, in a very short while, we'll get out of the woods. In a very short while, we'll be a country of accountability. In a very short while, we'll not have miscreants and cabals, people who, from being area boys, taking ballot boxes for people during elections, to becoming legislators and governors, ruling over people of integrity, people of intelligence, and world-class achievers, because that's what we have at the moment. So if we have that, as you know, and of course we could include a lot more in addition to what we already have as our fundamental objective of state principle, which rightly we might then term the Nigerian dream, and say we now judge governance by whatever party, by whatever name call, by your ability or otherwise to implement, you know, this fundamental objective of state principle. So that should be a Nigerian dream. If you look at it critically, as if you ever read it, you would say that this should be the Nigerian dream. So that at the end of the day, as I said, we would have a focus in governance. It will not be a question of, as I said earlier on, it is APC if another party takes over from APC in 2019. It says it's APC that started this project and I'm not going to continue with it. Government naturally is and should be a continuity. So that if in a polity where people are thinking right, where leaders, politicians are thinking right, when you get into government, you're not more representing your party. You're representing the sovereignty of the people of that country. You know, for instance, I have said the world over, there's so much anxiety over Donald Trump. Why? Because the man does not appear to reflect the ideas of the United States of America that the world knows. You know, he's a detraction from all of their constitutional amendments. He represents something different. Well, maybe some people agree with him. But if that is going to be the new United States of America, perhaps that will become the new American dream. So for us, we need to make the fundamental objective of state principle our Nigerian dream by incorporating a lot more vision, ideals, and focus.
That was Barrister Destiny Obun-Takon telling us about the principle of federal character as it relates to Nigeria's constitution and the need for every ethnic group to be represented at the center, at the federal level. And we went on the streets to get opinions of Nigerians on the concept of federal character. Here are their responses.
National character, I could like to say that national character might be the attitudes and the way things should be carried on in the national system.
Federal character, and that's the attitude of the, let me say, the composition, the attitude of the nation, of our leaders, those people that make our leaders, the senators and other things, the way their composition in the federal level.
Federal character, well, it should be a body that all agencies should be under, all federal government parastatals should be under. How should I put it? It's a thing that stands on its own, that everything is under it.
Federal character. Don't let me say what I don't know.
welcome back. This is still You.Gov. That was our street teacher segment, and we had interesting responses from people on the streets telling us their own definition of the term federal character. Interesting indeed. We had another speaker, another legal practitioner who spoke about political correctness. That was another interesting political concept we got to find out about this year on the show. Political correctness simply means that statements should be made not to offend other ethnic groups. It's still closely linked with the principle of federal character, looking at everybody as one in the nation. We have diverse ethnic groups, but as much as possible, we try to be fair to one another. Let's take a listen to Barrister Tony OFOYETAN.
Politics and correctness, I said it's paradoxical, in the sense that when you say something is correct, it presupposes irrebutably that such is right and true. However, when you look at the philosophy and the concept of politics, it's an embodiment of deceit. It's an embodiment of garnished lies. You are talking of, a group of people with certain ideological belief, which could be right, which could be wrong, for the purpose of pursuing a common cause, which could also be a defective cause. And to achieve such cause is to gain political power. So when you talk about political correctness, I want to assume that the framer of that phrase is looking at a situation where truthfulness will come into politics. Is looking at a situation where, objectivity will come into politics. I will not say that absolutely that these things are out of politics, but predominantly, as it were, we see more of the negative side of it. It's not a conclusive presumption that there are no good side of politics or that there are no good politicians. It only presupposes that majority on the negative side, and basically, so if you talk about political correctness in the Nigerian context, it's absolutely paradoxical.
Okay, now that was your own idea, your own perception of the term, the coinage, political correctness. But looking at people on the streets, the layman, how would you help us make sense of that coinage, political correctness?
Well, like I said that the framer of the coinage, whoever coined the phrase, is looking at a situation where there will be a different radical approach towards politics and politicking, to the extent wherein we begin to see high level of faithfulness, high level of truthfulness and honesty, where integrity, becomes the major watchword in politics. Looking at a situation where political leaders and politicians will say yes and their yes will be yes, and will say no and their no will be no. And at that point in time, then we cannot be talking about the concept of political correctness being true. I think that is what is at the back of the mind of whosoever brought that phrase, political correctness. We're looking at more or less something that is close to an egalitarian society, where leadership will be such that is almost immaculate, where leadership will be such that whatever they say, you hold, and their words are their bound, where leadership is not all about I, me, and myself. Rather, it's just going to be about us and you before me. That's just the thing I think I want to make a sense out of that.
Barrister Tony, the word, the coinage, political correctness, seems to exclude every form of negativity, negative comments from one region or the other to a certain segment of the country. So can you help us make sense of it in the Nigerian context? What does it portend?
Well, I think if you have to do an extension of the construction of political correctness to include, having every interest group in the country well attended to the extent that one group it does not feel marginalized. And to that extent, well, of course, I concede and concur. However, from what we have on ground, as it were, in Nigeria now, if we go by what you have said, it means that there's high level of political incorrectness. Yes, because we see that almost every part of the country but one side is complaining of marginalization. The Southwest is looking at the fact that they are not well attended to, they are not well catered for, there's no good federal presence in the Southwest. The Southeast, they have the same thing. The South, there seems to be worse, and because of that, they have raised their own militia called the Niger Delta Avengers. You know, now when you now go to the Northeast is having an unfortunate fair share of this in form of insurgents, where you see miscreants in the name of whatever the guy coming to sack a whole community and all those stuff like that, take over the community, and unfortunately and very painfully too, the government seems to not be doing enough, let me put it like that. And there are so many factors that I personally see as being, you know, some of the reasons that I can adduce to. But as it is now, one is not too convinced that the government is interested in making sure that there is peace and in those areas. And when I talk about peace, I'm not talking about you know, the type that is more or less on a dynamite that is capable of exploding at any time. You know, I'm talking of a relatively good peace, precursor to the advent of terrorism in the Northeast. It used to be a very peaceful region, if not one of the most peaceful regions in the country. But for no reason, some religious bigots took over the peace of that terrain. And today, most of the borderline, all the communities and the like are ghost communities now. People are now, citizens are now in IDP camps in their own country, which is another thing entirely, because some of us have advocated that they should scrap IDP. The IDP is more or less like playing into the master plan of the terrorist. The terrorists want to take over your land, and you have left your land in the hand of who knows, nobody. And you are now housing the original owner of the land in an IDP camp. Then for how long will you house them? The United Nations Convention on Displaced Persons says it should not exceed 6 months. And I'm sure you and I know that in Nigeria today, there is no IDP camp that is less than 1 year, 2 years. Then the question is, for how long will they be camped in IDP camps? What happened to their land, their ancestral land? Now, from the information we are hearing, government are beginning to rebuild some of these places that are destroyed. Building them for who? Because the original owner of this property, you have camped them in IDP camp and you are giving them Indomie and spaghetti every day. But what happened? Who are you building those edifices for? What it simply means is that government is taking over those property at the detriment of the original owner. That is just the implication. And as far as we are concerned, I don't support the idea of IDP camp. If you think that you are capable, let the people go back to their respective villages, give them security. There is no terrorist that is bigger than any government anywhere in the world. There is no matter how sophisticated the terrorist group may be, God has not given them the power to be bigger than the government, except the government itself is the one that is either directly or indirectly condoling such act of terrorism. In the absence of that, there is no reason why people will be displaced from their community. The terrorists will take over the community and will start building their structures in such community, and government will just be looking for what reason?
Lover Plus app is bigger and better. Watch all our shows with just a click.
Let him have the right to decide what happens with your body.
Watch inspiring, informative, and entertaining programs. You can comment, like, and share. Watch our live TV and web TV on your mobile devices. Watch the big stories in real time or when you have the time. Experience Lovewell Plus app right now. Download Lovewell Plus app on Android, iOS and BlackBerry. Go to Google Play Store, Apple App Store or Windows Phone Store. Welcome to the bigger picture. Lovewell Plus, beyond television.
Wow, political correctness indeed is a concept, as I said earlier, that ensures that people don't just say things anyhow in public. You try to ensure that the statements you make are fair to every other ethnic group. You try to balance your statements and make them as accurate as possible. That was Barrister Tony OFOYETAN who gave us deeper insights into that topic. And we have some more tidbits for you on the show. Stay with us. It's been a very exciting episode with you listening out there, watching out there, and the topic was federal character and political correctness. We took a look at those topics earlier in the year, and we wanted to ensure that you got to know more about them again this time. And Barrister Destiny TAKON spoke on federal character, while Barrister Tony OFOYETAN spoke on political correctness, which seeks to ensure that when we make statements, we make them fairly and equitably. And federal character is also a principle of fairness, especially in the distribution of jobs and appointments at the federal level. I am Olomu-Agbodo. If you have comments for us, we would like you to log on to our website on www.lovewellplus.org. We also like you to download our app on any of the mobile app stores. And we have numbers that will be showing on your screen now. We'd like you to send messages, your comments to those numbers. From me, it's bye for now.